Hi everyone, it's Nina Collins here at the Wolfer, and today we're doing, as part of our Wolfer Expert Series, we're having a conversation with Stephanie Odell, who runs basically a modeling agency for women over 50 called Celebrate the Gray. So welcome, Stephanie. Really nice to see you again, to meet you.
Good to see you again.
Thank you for being here. So can you tell us a little bit about your background and what led you to this current business and how long ago, and tell us the whole story.
Well, in my 40s, I left my career to raise my kids. I have a 24-year-old and a 20-year-old. And in my 40s, late 40s.
What career? What was your first career?
My first career was customer service management training. I worked in the health club industry. I have a sports marketing background, which kind of started my whole understanding women and their bodies, and that we're kind of born with a shape that doesn't ever leave us. It may change in dimensions as far as in and out, but it's pretty much the same. But it's kind of, that was the start of, and also the customer service, really understanding how to take care of people. Mm-hmm. That was before kids. And, when my son was 4 and my daughter was almost 2, I remember this moment of sitting in my office trying to get something done and not doing my job very well and not raising my kids. I felt like I was doing neither well, and one had to end.
That's such a feeling, such a common feeling that women have, right? I think.
Yeah.
I wonder if men ever really feel that way. Probably not a lot, because they're more, what's the word?
Focused or narrowed into not as multitasking as a woman may be.
Able to compartmentalize. Yes.
Yeah. So, that was my aha moment of, okay, it's time to be a full-time mom, and kind of dived into that, did the PTA president thing and volunteered where I could, and raised 2 amazing kids and kind kids, and kind of felt like that was I'd done what I was supposed to do on the earth. Mm-hmm. But in my 40s, kind of started questioning, what am I passionate about? And really didn't even know what I was passionate about anymore. I knew I was passionate about my family, my friends, but then as far as what I wanted to do next.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you, but that's another very common thing, I think, for women. I mean, and maybe people in general, as they get older. I think that question of what's your passion is a very hard question for a lot of people.
So. To the point of overwhelming, to the point where it scared me that I couldn't figure it out. Mm-hmm. And because I kept thinking of the bigness of it, or, where was I going, instead of just doing one small thing. So the one small thing I did was get a part-time job at Athleta, and worked, 10 to 2 when my kids were in school, and started doing something for myself that didn't involve my kids, didn't involve my husband, didn't involve where I went to school. It was really my own little world. And it made a huge difference. It made me start really thinking about who did I want to be? And then one of the things I loved about working there, and I worked there for 5 years, was really helping women understand their shape and learn how to dress their shape. And so I started my own styling business in addition to working there, and then left there and worked for Stitch Fix, which is an online styling site, for 3 years. Styled 6,000 women, everything from a 13-year-old to a 90-year-old, and just found the common uncomfortableness of people's, they were uncomfortable with their bodies as they aged, because it didn't look like it looked in their 20s and 30s. And so started a blog 5 years ago called Celebrate the Gray.
Okay.
To figure out if there was a need for a fashion line specific to the over 50 woman. And because I saw product, but it wasn't being merchandised or marketed on a 50-year-old or older. So we would walk into stores. My clients would walk into stores and say, I don't belong here, and walk right out.
Mm-hmm. So I have a couple questions. So Athleta is really, I've actually never bought anything from Athleta. I know they have great styles. Do you recommend them for women our age? I should look into them.
Yeah. Great price point. They're pieces that you can travel with, dress up, dress down.
Is it all for exercise, or it's definitely the kind of wear for leisure wear?
No, there's a city brand or city line within their line, and it's really great pants and dresses, dresses with built-in bras and pockets and, things that we all want in our clothing.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to look into that. Then also your point about body type and how like our body type basically stays the same, right? It's funny. I mean, you do get a little bigger or a little smaller and you get more lumps, but it's
Right.
true that the things we struggle with, or the things that look good on us, it basically stays the same. It's interesting to me that you went from like a career in fitness and then not working, and then you really gravitated toward fashion. Are you super into fashion in general, or is it more about bodies? Like, I mean, to jump into styling in your 40s is kind of a challenge.
Well, it's so funny. I look back, I lived in Europe and lived in London in my right out of college.
Hmm.
And I looked back at some of my journals, and one of the entries was about trying to find a job in fashion and going to some houses and trying to get a job in fashion. And my first job out of college was with Macy's in their buying program.
Okay.
So it's one of those things I think was always in me to do, but I kind of got,
Sidetracked.
sidetracked.
Yeah. Okay. All
Yeah.
right. So you're in your 40s and you start a blog. And what's the blog about?
The blog was to speak to 100 women to find out if there was a need for a fashion line for the over 50 woman.
Okay.
And so I asked friends and family, do you have somebody that's over 50 that's inspiring to you that I can talk to? And that was another aha moment. There's all these wonderful women that are aging vibrantly and aging positively and embracing their aging. Yet those aren't the women we see. The women we see are the women telling us, dye your hair, get rid of your wrinkles, wear shapewear to hide your body that may have changed. So I realized what really needed to change was the visuals and the narratives we're given as we age to be updated, to be inclusive of those positive women over 50, 60, 70, 80, 90.
Often,
That,
when I think about the way women are portrayed as they get older, I think about pharmaceutical ads.
yeah,
Basically.
they're doing a better job. And Target does a fantastic job. You walk into their store, you always see representation of size, age, and race. And also online, they do a fantastic job. So there are brands that are realizing the power of the 50 plus woman, that undervalued, underrepresented woman that has a lot of money to spend and not being represented in a positive way. So did that, did the blog, and then took 6 of those people that I'd interviewed and we did a photo shoot, put them in modern styling, hair and makeup, and just the energy in the room and the way those women started to see themselves differently. One of the women, I put on this really great red dress and we pulled her hair kind of back and it was a little sexier than she's used to. And she's like, oh my God, this is I'm so uncomfortable. And you just saw this, but you're so beautiful. Like if you could see yourself in this light and see how beautiful you are, but you're hiding that because I think you're not represented. So started looking at, was there a need for a modeling agency, or I had some interaction with some small brands that said, look, we want to use gray-haired models. We can't find them. They're too expensive, or they're so beautiful, they don't really resonate with the real woman.
Oh, interesting. So you did the photo shoot for yourself? Like, was
Yeah.
it, you just decided, I'm going to spend the money. I want to do, what were you planning on doing with the photographs?
Well, I just wanted to test out. I actually didn't, I had a great photographer friend, Tracy Predis, that volunteered her time. The makeup gal volunteered her time. I worked with a consignment store and got these really great clothes. So it was just kind of a exercise to see, just fun, really. It was just kind of fun to see what would happen. I didn't really have a end goal of doing it. We wanted to do it.
That's great. All right. So you're kind of just exploring. I mean, the name Celebrate the Gray, by the way, is awesome.
Thank you. Yeah. It's interesting. A lot of people are like, oh no, that's a terrible name. But 90% of the people, oh, it's such a great name. And I say to people, look, I'm not gray yet. I'm going gray, but it's also gray matter, right? It's gray as we age, we go into this gray, gonna disappear kind of mentality versus let's celebrate that.
Yeah.
Dry vaginas. Yeah. The whole thing, the gray. And
a gynecologist once explained to me, she was explaining vaginal atrophy. And she literally said, like, when you're young, your vaginal walls are pink. And when you're over 40 or 50, they become kind of gray.
Oh, interesting.
That's great. Okay.
Well, I didn't have that in my mind, but now I will add it to my list of graying.
Yeah.
Coconut oil, right?
Right, exactly.
Um, so, it was just kind of this fun thing to do. It got some press, and then all of a sudden I had women reaching out to me saying, I want to be part of what you're doing.
Huh.
And I was like, I'm not sure what I'm doing, but okay, let's figure this out. And tried for about a year to find an agency to start embracing age in a more real way, more lifestyle models that represented real women in a
Thinking
better
maybe
way.
you could like work for an agency or get
Yeah,
them to sign up.
yeah,
Be like an agent. Yeah.
yeah. But couldn't find anybody.
Mm.
So resisted starting an agency for a long time because it was very complicated and I had to go through state regulations and do contracts and all and get bonds and things that's not my forte. But I finally figured it out and became a licensed agency 2 years ago.
Wow.
And now have over 60, close to 60 models.
That's incredible. That's a lot.
It's a lot. I know. I keep saying, oh, 45, and then I was like, I'm going to count how many I'm like, oh my god, I almost have 60 models.
Okay, so I have a few questions there. First of all, I used to be a literary agent, so I'm trying to think, what does being bonded mean? I mean, you said that's not your thing, but I'm curious what you mean. What was complicated about opening an agency?
Oh, it's just a lot of forms you have to fill out. You have to get licensed with the state, and state of California is not the easiest place to do business.
Okay.
So there's a lot of money, which I didn't have any of, and time and energy and knowledge that I didn't have. So I started asking for help. I started, friends that were lawyers, asking them to look at my contracts. And
yeah, you'd never have your own business, and to suddenly say I want to represent models, like that's
right.
It's a leap. It's a big
right.
leap.
Yeah,
Okay.
It was a big leap. So it was one of those kind of, do I do this? And I actually, within that time, said, this is too complicated. It's too much. And so I got a full-time job. We had two kids in out-of-state colleges, and we really needed another income. And I got a full-time job. And within a month, I was like, what am I doing? I am walking away from figuring out if this will work. And I just didn't want to look back in my 60s and say, God, I wish I would have just made 100% effort and figured out if it would work. And
because it's a great idea, actually. I mean, it really is a great idea. And in this moment where more and more people are talking about menopause, and there are all these great Instagram pages of fabulous women, if there really is no older woman modeling agency, there should be. So now there is. And is your agency called Celebrate the Gray?
Yes.
Okay. And how do you find women, and where are they working, and are you making money? How's it going?
All very good questions. So women find, I was a stalker for sure the first year, reaching out to women on Instagram, asking them to join the agency, really saying, look, I'm a grassroots agency. I'm not your typical agency. I'm as impressed with your story as I am with your photo. Probably more impressed with your story, because I think the story is more powerful for other women to see. Oh, I went through breast cancer. I had a hip replacement, and I'm in my 70s, and now I'm transitioning from being a coach to a model. And I never thought this would happen. So I think that storytelling is what women want in their advertising. So I think that we set ourselves apart by the women are real. The women all have powerful aging stories, and they all want to be doing this to inspire other women. So I'm providing this vehicle for them to be a voice that they can't be a voice any other way. And it's interesting, before pandemic, we had booked a couple of shoots, and they were so inspiring to see these young decision makers in the room with these older women. And as we were having the shoot, they are rewriting the age model they have in their head. They're sitting talking to this 70-year-old saying, oh, this is 70? I thought 70 was you had a walker, or you were retired and you didn't do anything. You weren't still learning. You still weren't pushing yourself out of your comfort zone.
Well, that actually brings up a question for me, like an aesthetic question. Are they all, do you have women ranging in age from 40 to 85? Like, is it all over the map?
So the only requirements are 50, gray hair, and, not done plastic surgery or So
Okay.
very
So
natural women.
you have to have gray hair and you have to
Yep.
be over 50. Fascinating.
Yep.
And are they all kind of model beautiful, or
No.
is there a real range of, okay.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple models that are with other agencies. There's a couple models that have left their agency because they were aged out, basically. There's some women that modeled when they were 13 and, are plus size women now, but want to show their granddaughter there's power in their age. The stories are so incredible. I have women now that reach out to me versus me stalking people. I mean, so it's incredible to have this vehicle to share their story and for them to be part of. And I say to them, look, it may be you get a gig, a shoot every month. It may be you get one a year. You may not get any, but you're part of this mission of changing the face of aging for women. So
may I ask, how much do you charge? Like, do you take a cut? Like most agents, when I was an agent, I took 15%.
Yeah.
20 for foreign. I don't know what's standard in modeling.
Standard in modeling is 20%. Okay. So, and each job is different. Excuse me. Some may be in kind. I do a lot of Athleta work that we do fashion shows. So the models all get like $200 worth of free clothes. Or one of the models got booked for a national campaign. So and it's airing right now. It's Rinvoq. It's Rinvqc. I should look it up. Anyway, she did print and a commercial. And so every time that commercial is playing, she's getting paid.
Money. Yeah.
Awesome. So, during pandemic, nothing was happening. So I spent the year connecting, making connections like my connection with you and other thought leaders in the ageism movement, just to tell them who I was, what I'm trying to do. Also really building up my diversity in the board, trying to get more race diversity represented, because that was something I was really hearing that wasn't represented. So I feel like that has changed the board a lot over the year.
Are those pictures behind you?
Those are my children.
Okay, I was about to say, those are not models, are they?
They're not models. No, they're my
a million children.
No, just my children, from preschool to high school.
Nice.
So,
and do you keep like a book of everyone's pictures? Like, I'm curious how you even organize this. Like, I know what it's like being an agent as a writer. An agent for writers, but for models, you're like, you bring them in and then you're out there talking to brands, I assume, kind of shopping around essentially.
Right. So everything's online now. So all the models' photos live online, and they have to supply a headshot and a full body shot. And then any jobs they have, then I'm building their kind of book online, showing what's happening. So there's been a lot of online things happening in this last few months. We were up for a Maybelline commercial for the models, but then, which was so encouraging because they were going to be age inclusive, but then they changed the direction at the end. So, but they know who I am. So that's a huge thing.
It's funny. I had a meeting this week actually with Bumble, the dating app. And I told the woman I met with that 2 or 3 years ago, I met with someone from Bumble, and because we were trying to do some sort of partnership, and I met with this really young woman, head of, I don't know, New York marketing, who was like 26 and lovely. And she basically said to me, women your age don't date. Like, we're not focused on that demographic. And I was like, oh my God, so many of our women are using Bumble. Like, this is insane. But she just, again, she was lovely, but she was so completely focused on millennials. And then I had a meeting with them this week, and now they want to talk to us about something else. Like, it is interesting how it's changing. So getting in the door with someone like Maybelline is pretty awesome.
Yeah, but it's interesting because it's changing, but I think it's our responsibility, and I'm sure you can say this too with all your willful people, that if we've got to be out there doing and saying who we are and what we're doing, because a lot of times these age models that are being used in advertising is just because nobody knows any different, and then providing women with these visuals and these narratives so that they can be something that they don't even imagine. You know, they start thinking about the possibilities and not the limitations of their aging. Because I think we're fed all the limitations, right? We're told you don't look like you did, you know, you don't have the capabilities you did. And it's like, oh no, we have more capability now as we age.
Are you thinking about taking on men as clients or only women?
Right now, women. It was interesting when I came back from, I said I had taken a full-time job and then I left it and I made a commitment to finish my website and really narrow my focus on gray-haired women over 50. And when I did that, it was like, that's when the doors started opening, when I really defined who I was and who I represented. I've been approached from men about joining, maybe at some point also women that aren't gray, but gray is the first thing we're kind of shamed about as we age.
True.
So it's such a powerful.
I don't dye my hair yet. I have a few gray. It's weird. I'm 51. I don't know why I don't have gray hair yet. So will you dye your hair?
No.
No, you wouldn't.
No.
If you did to not dye your hair, it'd be pretty bad if you did. As someone as a company to celebrate the gray. You're just not gray yet. How old are you?
Well, I am gray. I do have some there. It's coming in, and my hairdresser, thank God for her. You know, I don't go to the hairdresser but once a year, and God, probably 5 years ago, I was plucking, right?
That's
and she's like, you're just you just have to, you're going to be beautiful with gray hair. Just let it come in. And since I've done that, I feel like it's not coming in very quickly. So I don't know if I was making it come in quicker by plucking, but
I don't know. Yeah, I definitely pluck them. I sit, in the car mirror is the place. And how old are you, may I ask?
58.
Okay, nice.
58.
Well, I have gray hair at 58. I wonder if I'll last that long. Interesting.
Probably, but I think about Ashton Applewhite talks about dyeing her hair gray because she was out there talking about positive aging and doing all this work, and she wasn't gray, and she dyed her hair gray. And I think, should I do that? Should I like dye a streak or, like Stacy does, or
I guess you could.
I'm like, no, that's not being very authentic in who I am. But
right. What do you think about all the purple haired ladies these days? People with purple and pink.
Oh, I love it. I think that it's allowing people to be visible. And that's the one thing I heard when I spoke to all these women, and now I've spoken to thousands of women, is the one word that I heard consistently is I feel invisible.
Yeah.
And so if they're willing to dye their hair pink, that says to me, I want to be seen. I want to be part of society. I want to be in my community.
I think the invisibility conversation is really interesting in that I find in the Wolfer community, we find women who kind of avowedly say, I don't want to be invisible. I want to be seen. And they kind of attach that to, I want to still be sexy and I want to still be. And then there are women who say, I'm actually super psyched to be invisible. Like, I didn't like a lot of the male attention I got when I was younger.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Also, there's a freedom in being invisible. There's a freedom in feeling like I don't give a shit and I'll look however I want. And I have seen for myself in my 40s, I felt worried about invisibility. And now that I'm in my 50s, I kind of do feel a little bit like I don't really care. Like I like sometimes that feeling of like being a middle-aged woman who no one's really paying attention to. So
I still like a little attention. I'm not going to lie.
No, you shouldn't. I mean, I just think it's interesting that we all kind of have to figure out where we fall on that. And also easy, it's one thing for me to talk about it now at 51. Who knows how I'll feel at 65? It's a continually evolving thing, but the issue of female invisibility is real, and it's good that we're talking about it. I think.
But I think of more inclusion, right? If we saw the 70-year-old that's hiking in the REI ads, then you envision yourself, that's what I'm going to be doing in my 70s.
Yeah. No, it's the whole idea of representation. I mean, the same way it applies to race. Like if you see a Black female vice president, little Black girls feel like they can do it. I agree with you. If we see women in their 80s doing interesting things, it's great modeling. It's very important. And we don't see enough of it in our society. So how hard is it for you to be, how do you go about knocking on the doors of brands?
Good question. I am on the, DM people. I see brands that I think would represent the 50 plus woman authentically if they had models. So just reaching out to them And it's a slow burn. I mean, it may be a year later that a conversation I had will materialize into, oh yeah, come in and let's talk. And
Interesting.
so,
You should talk to Subaru if you haven't already.
okay.
We had a great car thread once, and I was really surprised in the Wolfer community. I mean, the Subaru Outback is a great car, and you live in Northern California. I'm sure a lot of people, it's a great car. It's a very solid car. But I was surprised in our community that it was almost like the number one car. And I've often thought we should try and do some sort of partnership with Subaru.
Yeah. Are you finding brands are coming to you now?
No, I mean, sometimes we get vibrator brands, we get cannabis brands,
Yeah.
we get sometimes incontinence, sometimes beauty products. I mean, our challenge now is because we've gotten smaller since we left Facebook. We really need to be bigger again. When we were on Facebook at around 30,000 people, it was easier for us to get some occasional advertising. It's
Yeah.
harder now. And I think we'll grow again, and I think we'll get them back. But I'd say the area is kind of certainly the sex tech and beauty. I mean, I love things like reading glasses, like Peepers. So there's certain brands that are kind of obvious fits for us. But it is interesting to think about how well we're represented by those brands. Like, you're right that Target is a good example of a place that does a really good job. I can't think of many places that do a great job representing women our age.
Yeah. Knitswear, Universal Standard is very inclusive as far as clothing.
What do you think of Eileen Fisher in terms of clothing?
You know, it's kind of not, it's beautiful clothing, but I think you start to hide in that clothing. But she's very thoughtful in her merchandise, how she makes clothes for women. I don't see that she's super inclusive though, age inclusive. The models sometimes represent, I mean, she's such a beautiful older gray-haired woman.
Yeah.
I'd love to see her more in the modeling and more in, talking about the brand.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny. Her brand does seem a little dated now.
Yeah.
Somehow. I'm not sure why or how. I actually used to wear her stuff when I was pregnant.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
Wear. Speaking of beautiful older women, what about Norma Kamali?
Yeah.
God,
I know. What isn't she in her 80s now?
I think so. She's incredible. Okay.
Yeah.
There are so many. Jane Fonda. I mean, there are so many. Well, good for you. This has been really great. It's good for all of our listeners to know that there is a modeling agency for women over 50, for gray-haired women over 50. And I hope for you, I mean, I would think that as a business proposition, you should get bought up by a bigger agency.
Oh, wow. Well, I think about that, but then I think I love the connection. One of the things I love doing is connecting people, and to have someone reach out to me, tell their story. And then I'm like, okay, you got to talk to this person. I mean, I think you're like that too.
Yeah, I love it too. I totally relate. And it is I was saying to someone earlier today on a call, like, I started the Wolfer community almost 6 years ago, and there really didn't exist at the time all these groups and blogs and interesting women. There's so many of us now doing interesting things in this space. And I agree. I love connecting everyone and knowing everyone. It's a fun world.
It is a fun world. And I had a woman reach out to me. She's writing an article about competition in your midlife and beyond. And I went, oh my God, I don't feel competition. I feel so more collaborative than I ever have felt. And I would rather see you write about the people collaborating than competing, because I really don't feel that.
I agree. I really don't. And I've met so many fabulous women, and it really makes me happy how many women have become friends because of our community. And so, yeah, I completely agree. We want more collaboration. I mean, it's something we talk about a lot in the Wolfer community, the mentality of scarcity. Like, it's just so not, there's plenty for everyone to go around. We don't need to be afraid.
Right. We're bigger and better together than fighting our own. Yeah,
exactly.
For sure.
Exactly. All right. Well, this has been great. So everyone, you can find Stephanie at celebratethegrey.com. Is that correct?
That's correct. And gray is with an A, not an E. Right. And yeah, if people are interested in modeling and want to reach out, I'd love to hear from you. Again, only requirements: you're over 50, you have gray hair, and you are passionate about changing the face of aging for all women and sharing your story. Or if you're a brand and want to understand the 50 plus woman better, I've talked to a lot of them. So
yeah, I love it. I love what you're doing. All right. Well, we will spread the word.
Thank you. And it's so nice to spend some time with you today.
Yeah, same. All right. Talk soon. Take care.
Okay.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.